Hello, hello, what is going on, guys? Phoenix61 here with another Skull and Bones video. We are plundering the hardest plunderable forts in Skull and Bones, right? So this is Fort Premie, right? So this one is a 14, and all of the forts and locations leading up to this one I have plundered solo, right? We've been able to do those completely on our own. I gave this one a shot several times with several different builds. I think it's possible to do solo, but I think part of the problem is just the patience that it's going to take. But yeah, so you can see this tower that I'm focusing on right here. This is a mortar tower, right? So you can see these huge red circles that are showing up on the water. Those mortars are the problem, right? So that's why I'm focusing on them first. Yeah, you can see it's just this one's hitting us. I think there's 3 or 4 of these towers around the base, and I think that they can fire multiple, and some of them, like the farther away ones, can also hit you. Even so, they're really tough to avoid, right? So I think that's the key, right? So my suggestion thus far is to focus on those first. They seem to be the most detrimental to me, and that was kind of the problem, right? So like we take a couple of hits from those, and use the brace of the tank build, right? This is the snow that we're in, right? So this is the tank ship. I wanted to use my sandbook, right? So you guys know me, I've got my fire build that I love and adore, right? Like on the sandbook, where we're using basically fire bombards for the most part, and then I used termites 3 for the ox weapon, the fire rockets, right? And those do really good damage to structures. But so here I was using the snow because those mortars are just brutal, right? So the snow has a lot more brace strength and a lot more hit points overall, and I think it was necessary. So I think if you're gonna solo this, that would be the way to go. But like I said, like this was just, I tried it a few times. At first I tried with my sandbook, and it was just like you could take one of those mortar hits while bracing in the sandbook, and then if you got hit with anything else, you were kind of done, right? So I switched to the tank, much more survivable, right? So, but yeah, like focus on these mortar towers. That's what I'm doing here, and like they got wicked amounts of health too, is the problem, right? So I was trying this the twin winch ballista in the front for the bow weapon. I'm back and forth on whether that's the way to go, right? The key with that is it's got the range, and it does do, like, I think we're getting like 16,000 damage on it, right? Like when we hit it. The reason I'm like kind of on the fence about it is because it takes so long to load, right? Like, so you've gotta wait for the drawback of it and then fire it. And then, so I think for like damage per minute or damage per second, whatever you want to call it, I feel like something else is going to be better there, right? So yeah, and we go down, like that's what I was saying, like you get hit by a couple of these fort defenses, simultaneously, and it kind of ends you. And then that's where having at least one other person, I think, with this plunder is key, because when you go down, so it does say, plunder ended, but that, as long as somebody else is in there still surviving doing the plunder, it keeps going, right? So then you can either, and then yeah, I'm still like calling for help. I'm like, this is just taking time. Like, it's doable. It's just taking time, right? And then yeah, you can see we actually had at least 1 or 2 of these guys that came to join. So props to them, right? These were just strangers that happened to be in my instance. Yeah, they were rocking the support ship, right? So that was like super helpful. But yeah, so yeah, like I think you need somebody. Otherwise, it's like, I think it's doable. It's just gonna take a lot of time, right? Like, so I think you could potentially use something like the ballista bolt, right? Like the twin winch ballista, because it's got the range, right? You could you could tuck yourself back in the corner within the plunder area still, right? and maybe just whittle away at the fort defenses, but that'd be kind of like, you know, it'll be a little bit of a cheese and a little bit boring, right? Because it would take a while. But yeah, so super shout out to the randos that joined me. So what I did was I just kind of came up to it. You know, I tried doing this solo a few times, and I think I maybe got one of the mortar towers down, and then it was like, you know, I think there's 3 of them. And then so like I started working on another one, and it just like overwhelmed me between the cannon walls, you know, shooting cannons that we're taking hits from right now, and then these mortars at the same time, right? Like so. But yeah, the brace in the snow is the key, because I think it can take like 25,000 damage, you know, from like absorb 25,000 damage from bracing, and so you'll see even with that. We'll get hit by something else, and you know, so it'll, you know, so those mortars are doing like 25,000 plus damage to you, right? So it was key to have the snow, and then yeah, it was really great. Some of these guys that joined are in the bark, right? So the support ship, the healer, and they did actually have healing weapons on, so they were, you know, I saw them shooting me and shooting each other, right? So big shout out. To them, but yeah, I think you could get away with, you know, having just everybody rocking the snow here, but definitely a team effort kind of thing on this one. So the level 15 base is going to be, I'd imagine, a similar situation. The thing with this fight is it's really, and like I skip a little bit in the middle here, so you'll see the video cut for a second coming up, just because like it's just time consuming. Like I'm still working on this first mortar launcher tower, right? Like we're, you know, 6 minutes into the video, and I'm still trying to prioritize this one defense, right? So, but absolutely prioritize those mortar towers, you know, especially if, you know, because if you can, you know, if you're on like maybe this side of the base, you might be able to get far enough away so that the further back ones aren't hitting you. I'm not sure. But like once you get even just one of them down, it becomes noticeable, right? It starts making a difference. And so then once we, you know, when we get towards the end here, we'll cut ahead to where we're pretty low on base defenses here in a second. But like once you get the base defenses down, it's smooth sailing, especially if you've got people with you. The biggest challenge here, yeah, we're gonna try and get out of this. So my SAM book, and we're bracing here too. So my SAM book had, you know, it has worse acceleration, right, than this does even. So like I was able to get away from, you know, those mortars a little. I had a little bit more of a chance, right? But yeah, so we skipped ahead. You notice I think I did die again at some point in the video, so I think I died twice during this fight. But yeah, it's definitely one you want to bring somebody with. Like I said, if you've got the patience, it might be doable solo. Because, you know, like I did all the other ones solo. We were up to 13, and that wasn't too bad solo. I was still rocking the SAM book for that build, right? So I imagine it's doable. I just think it's gonna take time, right? Like it's gonna take you a while to whittle down those base defenses on your own, right? So, but yeah, once we get them down, like this is smooth sailing. This becomes real easy, right? So yeah, and then yeah, like I said, somebody's using repair mortars. Yep. So and that gives us a good chunk of heal. Shout out to those guys. And then yeah, so I think you know, after that, I think there's one more base defense over here on the other side, but we took out the mortar towers, which those are the worst, right? Like those are what hit the hardest, and so it's just like it's a breeze after you get rid of those, in comparison at least. Yeah, so one more, I don't know, I call these cannon walls. I don't really know what they are, you know what, but yeah, and we're doing good damage, right? Like, so I'm using the twin winch ballista in the front, and then I'm using the Dardanelles guns, you know, these bombards that shoot all at once, and they hit pretty hard too. The downside with those is, you know, when you're using the tank, right, when you're using the snow, you only get 3 weapon slots on the top deck, right? So that since they're top deck weapons, you're only shooting 3. So whereas, you know, with like my SAM book, it's got 4 slots on the top deck. So right, so if you're using like a regular cannon, I think there's 4 ports below deck, right? And so you'd have 7, 7 guns, right? But like, if you're using those top deck weapons, you're kind of sacrificing that a little bit, right? So there's that trade-off. But yeah, so that's kind of my one gripe on the snow. But the balance there comes with how much health you get with this thing, right? Its survivability is just insane compared to all the other ships right now, right? So, but yeah, once you get those base defenses down, and once you get to this far in the Plunder, I think it shows we're only like halfway through, but this goes really, really quick now because, oh yeah, we got a wall section to take out here. But yeah, what happens going forward is they send in like 1 boss ship at a time for each phase, right? So, and this would definitely be doable solo, but like I said, it would just take these guys are level 15, and so on your own it just takes a little bit of time. Like their attacks didn't seem particularly brutal, right? Like not like what the base defenses were doing to us, right? In comparison. So it's just a matter of just whittling him down, right? But like when you've got other people with you, these guys go really, really fast, right? So, and this is why I had switched to the flu, right? This acid poison mortar weapon, right? So you can buy that from the bartender in St. Anne, right? Yanita Nara or whatever I think she's called, her name is. But it works really good against pretty much any ship that's, with the exception of the fleet of pestilence ships, so and like La Peste, right? So, but it works really good because it does that poison damage, that gets that original hit does damage, and then if they stay in it while it's like green and smoky, it's doing more damage and taking away their stamina too, right? So, it works really, really great against pretty much any ships with the exception of the pestilence guys, right? So yeah, look how much damage we did to that one. That wasn't a level 15 guy, but yeah, you get the idea. Yeah, so like this part of the fight is like crazy easy, and I think when it comes to plundering, it's kind of an interesting concept because it really does get easier as you go as opposed to more difficult as you go, which like you would kind of tend to expect with this type of gameplay or game, right? But that's kind of the way it works, right? So it's always harder until you get some of those base defenses down, and then like this point with Premie here, once you get the base defenses down, it's easy. It's just I think that tower in the back is not linked to this base, but they are DMC towers, so they don't like me when I'm close, right? So I was like considering going after them, but I'm like, what, it doesn't matter. Like, so yeah, we would literally just have 2 more ships to kill here, and then that's gonna be it because it sends in 1 boss guy at a time, and then that's it, right? So I think it should send in more because I think most people, if they get to this point of the Plunder, like it should send in some like lower level, like level 10s or something because it's just too easy, right? Like it's just like so you need some buddies to do this Plunder to start with, and so like 1 level 15 ship, just like he goes down pretty quick, right? So it's kind of boring, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, like you can see him, he doesn't stand a chance, right? And I don't even think he's shooting at us, but yeah, his hit there, but like I said, like he's not. It wasn't like a brutal amount of damage. It wasn't anything not doable, right? Like, and then, yeah, we're getting shot at by our friendlies with healing weapons, right? So, 1 more to go, it looks like. And then, yeah, I'll show you what I get for rewards at the end here, too. But, like, that's the other thing with this is, like, this took so much time that, like, I think it was, like, 21 minutes was my, like, run time from start to finish for the Plunder itself, and so I cut some of it out just because it was like, oh yep, I'm shooting the wall again, like that kind of so I cut some of it out for the video, but yeah, like it's just now it's a matter of just killing this 1 ship that comes in, and that's it. This twin winch ballista, like I gotta give it credit, it is kind of nice for shooting these smaller weak points on ships, but like I said, I just don't know if it's worth the like the DPS in compared to some of the other weapons, just because of how long it takes to reload. I like it. It's like cool. Like, I like how it looks. It's fun to fire it. So I think it's a little underpowered is kind of what I'm getting at, right? I think that, like, you don't see a lot of people using the ballista bolts because there's not like a unique thing that they're like really good at. Like, they've got range and that's pretty much it, right? Like, but as far as like damage, you know, doing damage over, you know, minutes and seconds, I think there's better choices. I feel the same way about, yeah, so we're done with the plunder, right? We win, yay! But I think the same thing with torpedoes too. I think that there needs to be some tweaking with torpedoes. I think they're a little underpowered. And then range on torpedoes too, because any ship moving away from you when you fire a torpedo is gonna, like, the torpedo dies out because it's, you know, it doesn't travel as fast as a cannonball, right? So I did buy a few things from the vendor when I came ashore here. But yeah, so we got some furniture, some rockets too. Like, really, you can't even give me a rocket 3. And then, yeah, I think this precision drilling bit is probably the most valuable thing that I got. But you can see I have 83 in my warehouse. Like, I've gotten so many of those from other easier activities that it's like, that was like not worth it. And then, yeah, we get one military relic, which is worth like, I don't know, 800 silver or something, right? So I think that there needs to be something done with these really tough fort plunders, because the amount of time it takes to do that in comparison to the rewards that you get from them, I think is not worth it, right? So yeah, twin winch ballista. And I was just, you know, like you can see here at maximum charge, damage increased to 600% and range to 1,300 meters, right? So like, it looks good on paper, right? But like, as you're doing that charge, I just like, I'm like, this is taking too long of a time in between shots for how much damage it does. I think it should, I don't mind the long reload, but I think it needs to do more damage or something, you know, like, yeah. But, and then, yeah, Dardanel's gun. So I was using these the rest of the way around the ship, right? So the sides and the back, right? The stern. And like I said, you can see where it says gun ports, it says 3, right? So that means you're only shooting 3 guns on the side, right? So, whereas if you switch to a cannon, I think on this ship, there's 4 weapon ports below deck. So then you'd get the 4 plus the 3 top. So you'd have 7, right? But yeah, like, so, and they do explosive damage, right? Like, so, you know, it's got that going for it. I think another thing I kind of wanted to try was this Mons Meg 3, because this does have siege, increased damage to structures by 50%. So that might have been the way to go. I think that, like, you know, with the challenge of this fort plunder being the structures themselves, maybe I just completely outfit for structure damage, right? Maybe I use Termites 3 and Moon's Meg 3, you know, all the way around the ship and go from there, right? And then I was using the flu, right? So this doesn't do too great against structures, but it works really, really good against ships, right? So ship to ship, this is probably, in my opinion, the best weapon out there, right? So if you don't have this, you can buy this from the bartender in St. Anne, right? I think it costs sovereigns, right? So if you're doing some progress in making pieces of 8s, you probably have enough sovereigns to buy this from that bartender. But yeah, the poison plus the, you know, it drains their stamina too, right? So that works really good on ships, right? But yeah, Termites 3, this has been my go-to for doing damage to structures, right? So my Sambuck build, my fire build, right? I've got fire bombards like pretty much all the way around the ship with the exception of the front. I think I'm using the shotguns in the front now, and then fire bombards all the way around. But this does extra damage to structures and has fire too. So like that's got that going for it. I was using the Wraithful Ward. I think so. This is also available for sovereigns, I think, from the bartender in St. Anne, right? So it does that poison damage when you take damage while bracing, right? So you're bracing a lot in this fight, so I figured that'd be beneficial. But Black Prince is a good choice too, because it reduces damage by 50% when your whole health is less than 33%, which is happening a lot when for like every time you take one of those mortar hits, right? And then furniture, I was using water tank. This is probably one of the best furniture pieces to pair with the ship, but because of how much it helps with bracing. But you could go with some of the other ones that do, like, there's one that does healing when you get below 20%, right? But yeah, Bombard works, and then because we're using mostly Bombards around this ship, right? And then double planked hull gives us an extra 5% hull health, right? So I'll show you what that really means when you go to the like ship selection screen, right? But the downside with the snow is another downside, right? So you only get 3 weapon slots on the port and starboard sides for top deck weapons, and you only get 4 furniture pieces. But the big bulky hull is where it's at, right? So if you notice here, so hull, and then this unique perks all come from bracing, so you can see those listed here too. But look at the hull health, so 52,500, right? So the base is 50,000, right? So that furniture piece is giving us an extra 2,500. I think something else is giving us some brace strength too. Maybe the brace strength is comparable to the hull health. I'm not sure, but I thought the brace strength base was 50 or 25,000. But regardless, so we're getting a little bit of a boost there too, right? So maybe that's coming from the water tank. Maybe that might be what's doing that. So we're kind of capitalizing there with that furniture piece. But yeah, if you don't have somebody with you in your group, right, use the call for help and use the chat too. So chat's working now too. So yeah, I did see some people, type it in the world chat like, hey, I'm doing this, event, or I'm fighting the new sea monster, right? So like, come help, and like give people a little bit of time too when you do that, because whatever they're doing, they got to stop doing that and then go to a port and then fast travel close to you and then drive over to you, right? So like it takes, give them a good 5 minutes or so, and until, don't give up on it, right? So, but yeah, I do find that within this community, people are kind of willing to come over and help out when you ask for it, right? So, yeah, if you're flying solo, give that a whirl, right? That's what I did here. I did not know those folks, so thank you to those guys that helped me plunder Fort Premie. But yeah, make sure to follow the channel, guys. That really does help me out. I really do appreciate you guys, everybody that watches and subscribes to the channel. That helps motivate me to keep going with videos. So do that, and we will see you next time. Thanks again.